Founder fans, Jason here, and today's founder is Joachim Zubly. Now, truth be told, Zubly is better described as an anti-founder because the end of this story is him being a loyalist. But the beginning of the story is important. He did help drive Georgia towards independence, so let's talk about it. Zubly was a Swiss man who was a Calvinist preacher, and he moved to Georgia about a decade after his father had moved there. And this is only also about a decade after Georgia itself was founded. Georgia was a very young colony, about 30 years old when the American Revolution started. So Zubly moves there. He preaches around Georgia and South Carolina before finally settling in Savannah. And while he's there is when the Stamp Act is passed, and people are not happy about that. And Zubly's one of the people who's not happy. He gives several sermons outlining why he was unhappy. And in fact, one of these was published and printed titled An Humble Inquiry. Back then, they used to use the word "an" in front of many words that started with H, like "an historical," things of that nature. So it was An Humble Inquiry. And An Humble Inquiry helped radicalize many of the people in a very loyalist Georgia. Georgia would be pretty loyalist into the war. To point that out, Georgia didn't send anyone to the First Continental Congress. They did send some people to the Second Continental Congress, but it wasn't until several months after it started, and one of those original congressmen was Joachim Zubly. Now, Zubly wore out his welcome fairly quickly. He did not like the boycotts, mostly because Georgia was so young and didn't have enough exports and didn't have the people to make things, so they really needed to import very badly and to export pretty badly too, and it would tear up the economy of his colony, and he was afraid of that. Also, he had no interest in being independent. From his point of view, we live in the most powerful empire in the history of the world. Why would you not want to be part of that? It was a common argument made by many loyalists. He was still staying in the Continental Congress, though, until it found out that he was corresponding with his friend James Wright about the things going on in the Continental Congress. And it just so happens that his friend James Wright was royal governor of Georgia. So, not the guy to be telling the secrets of the Continental Congress. To be fair to Zubly, from his perspective, he was simply corresponding with a powerful political ally. At this time, in mid to late 1775, no one knew independence was coming. There were inklings of it, there were some people talking about it, but it wasn't expected. It was still just, they put together a Continental Army, but it was just this little skirmish going on in Boston. Let's not get carried away with things. But when the Continental Congress found out he was corresponding with James Wright, he was actually expelled from the Continental Congress. And he went home and became very quickly a loyalist after that, because he was talking to the most powerful Continental Congressmen and did not like the direction they were taking things. Now, before we go, I have a quote here from Zubly. According to John Adams' notes of the convention, he was speaking about American virtue, and they were talking about American virtue and how important it was. Virtue was a very important thing to the founders. It's the only way a republic could run. And he has this really interesting quote from Zubly that is, "I would use American virtue as sparingly as possible, lest we wear it out." Saying, you can only count on people's virtue for so long. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Zubly is one of many fascinating characters we talk about here, so make sure you like and subscribe if you're new here. Also, if you want to help support this channel and some of the changes that are going to be going on in the next several days, I'm about to really improve my setup here, and if you want to help me offset some of those costs, check out my Patreon page. I have a link down below. Become a Patriot. I put out a bunch of extra information there. My longer videos I usually will put there. Not the whole rebuild I'm about to do will be on there, things of that nature. So I really appreciate your support, and I really appreciate you for watching. So thank you so much, and I'll be back with a new founder on Monday.